Hey everyone, Mike from PTE here again. This is the exciting conclusion of last week's Critical Grind episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, I encourage you to check it out first, both because it's a ton of fun and because there are several great callbacks in this episode. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the show.
But hold on to your pod things, pod racers, pod racing speeders. Hold on to your space speeders, folks. It's a Star Wars round. I promise I know more about Star Wars than that last sentence indicated. I can't talk good. Anyway, it's time for Here's Some Money, Go See a Star Wars. This is a little short round all about Star Wars. So here we go. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we met moisture farmers Owen, Baru, and their nephew on what desert planet?
Locked in.
Yeah. You want a 3, 2, 1 it?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Tatooine.
Tatooine is correct.
Tim, I'm just going to let you run with this one unless I'm needed.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Chris put in the chat, good luck.
I know Chris knows very little about Star Wars. I know a decent amount, but you know more, so you take it. And if you need me on the extreme off chance, just like send up a flare or something.
I sent Drew Bucksbaum a message earlier. I was like, I'm running a Star Wars round for Jeremy and Tim. It's just going to get absolutely flattened. So just remember, I wrote this for people who are casual trivia people. So,
right. And the first answer was Tatooine. So,
yeah,
All right.
Chris actually said that in the chat too. I'm like, okay, this is going to be bad. You know these two.
Question 2. I could ask you a hard question like who shot first, but instead I'll just ask who was the bounty hunter who confronts Han in the Mos Eisley Cantina?
Locked in.
3, 2, 1.
Greedo.
Yep. By the way, in the event of any challenges to answers or questions about where I got my stuff from, I went to Wikipedia for stuff. So,
Yeah.
Chris, I enjoy this though because it's completely rewriting our podcast's history of 3, 2, 1-ing questions, and that's my second per cast.
All right. So lots of characters have had bad feelings in this series, but by release order, which of these characters had the first bad feeling about this? C-3PO, Han, Leia, or Luke?
I'm locked in.
Okay. Tim, you can talk it out if you need to.
Tim, if you care to take in my opinion, I did send you the answer.
Was it?
When they're pulling up to the Death Star, I'm almost positive.
Yeah, but was it him or was it Han?
No, I 100% know it's Luke going.
Okay.
As they're pulling up to the Death Star, he's going, I have a very bad feeling about this.
Because I had that scene, like I knew it was that scene. I just had it mixed up on who said it.
No, it's definitely Luke. It's definitely Luke.
So yeah, Luke.
Okay. Jeremy, what'd you say?
Yeah, I have a very bad feeling about this. Is Luke as they're pulling up to the Death Star. Yep.
It was Luke. Han says it not too much longer after that when they're in the trash compactor. But yeah, Luke was the first one to say it according to release date. So, number 4. The species is still unknown, but there are only 3 named known members so far. They are Yaddle, Yoda, and which third character? And yes, I'll need the actual name.
3, 2, 1.
You get
3, 2, 1.
Grogu.
Yes.
Stop trying to make Grogu happen. It's not going to happen.
Right?
Or as Chris's autocorrect put it, groggy.
No, that's how I'm going to be at work tomorrow, being that we're 2 hours into this recording.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
yeah,
Chris,
I'm going to try to speed it
pinch
up.
your cheeks.
Yeah.
This round is helping.
Spoiler alert, but which title of address translates from Dutch to father?
Locked in.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Vader.
Vader, yes. And not as Bella says in Pitch Perfect, Vader in German means father. It's V-A-T-E-R in German, it's V-A-D-E-R in Dutch. Question number 6. Proving that the bigger the exhaust port, the bigger the space laser blast, Starkiller Base showed that it could wipe out 5 planets at once. Which of these was not one of those 5? Cardota, Exegol, Hosnian, Ratio.
Was
Locked
not
in.
one of the 5?
Was not one of the 5.
Locked in.
Okay. Jeremy, did you say locked in?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Exegol.
Yeah, Exegol, because that's the planet in
That's the
Rise of
planet in Rise
Skywalker.
of
Yeah.
Skywalker.
Mhm. All right. Number 7. An iconic quote, but a terrible pickup line. What rough, coarse, irritating thing does Anakin Skywalker not like?
Locked in.
Locked in.
Okay, I want Chris and Mike to 3, 2, 1 this one.
Oh my God, I'm dying here. All right, Chris, you ready?
I'm not taking any 3, 2, 1s. Jeremy's got this round.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
I'll do it. Ready?
3, 2, 1.
Sand.
Yeah.
I 99% sure there, but
we never knew what you were gonna see. You might have never. I'm not gonna do it. It's
That is
already
like
3.
All right. Number 8.
But it might have
No,
been
really.
birds.
Lots of what? Go ahead.
I said, but it might have been birds.
No,
Birds aren't
really.
real.
Lots of characters have bad feelings. By release order, who is the last character to have a bad feeling about this in the 9 movies? Finn, Lando, Poe, or Rose?
I'm going to lock in,
Okay.
I'm gonna lock in 2.
but we're
All
not
right.
going to 3, 2,
Oh.
1 this.
We're not
Yeah,
gonna 3, 2, 1 this one.
Jeremy, what do you think it is?
I think the person who says it in The Rise of Skywalker is Lando.
Okay, and
So I'm
10.
locking in Lando.
I said Finn.
Okay. The person who says it in The Rise of Skywalker, according to Wikipedia, the last person to say it in the Skywalker saga is Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
I
that's
honestly had no thunder on it, so
I've
didn't
tried.
either, but I
I've tried to
remember him
forget Rise of
saying it.
Skywalker, but
And I'm like, did somebody say it after him? Because I remember him saying it early on, like when they're
Mhm.
when they meet him on
Right.
the
Yeah.
when they meet him on the yeah
during the
exactly.
festival. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Pashana, yeah. Question 9. Disney Plus has released several new series and new seasons of Star Wars shows, but which series that just finished its 3rd season was the first original Star Wars series on Disney Plus?
Locked in.
locked in.
Yep. 3, 2, 1.
The Mandalorian.
That's correct. And
Good,
number
se-
10.
good harmony, by the way. This is the way.
no spoilers. I haven't seen season 3 yet.
I haven't either.
seen season 3 yet either, so. Number 10. Okay, this round's over, Anakin. In the duel on Mustafar, who had the high ground?
Locked in.
3, 2, 1.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is correct. Yeah, so that was the Star Wars round. Just so you know, I had put 20 points in for each of you at the start of that round, but that turned out to be 18 to 20 points on this, and that brings us to Critical Mind with 80 and Critical Grind and Rolls with 72.
Yep. No, that's completely fine. I messaged Tim. I was like, I don't remember. I would have guessed Lando, but I've tried to forget Rise. So
That's fair.
If we hadn't just rewatched it like last week,
Yeah.
I might not have remembered that.
I haven't revisited it since I saw it in theaters, which at the time I was worried because that was early 2020 probably when I saw it. I was concerned that would be the last movie I would ever see in theaters, and it was a thing, and I was very distraught. It does does it get better on repeated viewings?
It depends how you look at it.
It's
As a huge Star Wars fan, I like it for being a Star Wars movie, but
yeah.
not my favorite.
Honestly,
Understand, and I
think
do
if you
too. I'm that
stop
way.
it right before the last 3 minutes. I think it's
But
It's the
ironically,
last
we do
3
have a
minutes
thing in
ruin it
my
for me.
house where whenever we're watching the Star Wars movie, they're like, they said it whenever I have a bad feeling about this comes out.
Oh yeah, you got to
There it
do
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we are going to move right along and try to keep this this back half going relatively quickly. So here we go. This one is the Fadial round, and like I said, it's flowers, but they didn't specify what kind, so I did one on both. So it's called Ruby Rose and the Rye Sense of Humor, Rye being spelled R-Y-E. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. All of them contain either a flower, like one that grows from the ground, or a flower that you bake with. You're going to give me the answer that'll contain that in it, and then for 1 point. And then the other point is literally a 50-50. Is the plant typically an annual or perennial? So, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, question 1. According to Tariq, the official This ambassador of South Dakota, this is a big lump with knobs and has the juice. What is this?
Locked in.
Okay. Jeremy and Chris?
All right, we're locked in on what it is, but now the question is it annual or perennial? I think they have to plant it. So it'd be a perennial.
It'd be a perennial, yeah.
Right? That's the one that you have to plant every year, like the annual where it grows back. Like it's a weird wording.
Yeah, like they yes. So perennial is like once it's done, right?
I think so. Like, or am I getting that backwards? Or is the annual the one you have to plant annually? Or does that mean it comes back every year? This is where I get confused with flowers.
No. So I feel weird thinking about corn as a flower. Does it actually have flowers? I don't know.
I mean, I think by flowers it grows and you use it like for cooking. So
Yeah.
flour. And you can make corn flour.
It would just be because it would just be a pain in the ass to replant every year.
No, you have to replant every year. That's why they alternate corn one year, soybeans the next. They alternate.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right because the corn eats up the
nutrients,
and
soy
does
put them back in.
Soy replenishes the nutrients for corn. Okay, that's fine.
So perennial or annual, because that's what I always get confused on. I literally am confused on the two, but I think perennial is the right term.
Go with it.
All right, so we'll say corn and perennial.
Okay, Mike and Tim.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused here.
Yeah, we both are.
Because don't we only have to give perennial or annual if it's an actual FLOWER flower?
No, because it's a plant regardless.
Oh,
So I said each one you'll have to tell me if the plant is perennial or annual.
okay.
Gotcha.
Then I mean it's corn, and I would say annual.
I would say annual because it's you got to replant it.
So yeah.
All right, so you're saying corn and annual, and Jeremy and Chris said corn and perennial. Well, the good news, you're both right. It is corn. Jeremy, you got your definitions backwards. Annuals, you have to plant every year. Perennials, you don't have to replant because they come back year after year, despite your efforts to kill them, or however.
I always get those two confused because it's like, does annual mean it comes back every year, like it's an annual plant?
Nope, it means you have to plant it every year. So, that being said, that's 2 points for Mike and Tim, and 1 point for Chris and Jeremy. Question number 2. Which switch hitter from Cincinnati is known as Charlie Hustle and spent most of his career with the Reds? And is the plant annual or perennial? I'm probably going to stop saying that second sentence every time.
We'll lock in.
All right, locked in. Tim and Mike, you can talk it out.
Okay, so we both agreed that this is Pete Rose.
It's Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, absolutely.
The fact that it's a rose bush,
right,
makes me think it's a perennial.
That's what I was leaning towards as well. Yeah.
If it had been a flower, like as soon as I remembered that it's a rose bush, it switched me to perennial. So let's say that.
Yeah, I would agree. Bush is perennial.
Pete Rose and the perennial.
Okay, Jeremy and Chris.
So maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought that we had Pete Rose. So definitely Rose on this, but I believe rose bushes and rose, like the flowers, are two different things. So we said annual because my grandma used to plant roses every year when I was a kid. I used to help her. So unless you can just plant the flower on its own.
I was in the same boat, Jeremy. I
do know a rose bush is a thing. That's what I said. I think they're two different things, though.
Yeah, I just double checked it because I was pretty sure that I looked this up ahead of time, and I did. So it is Pete Rose. So both teams getting the point for that. But rose is a perennial plant. And rose is either a woody perennial flowering plant of the genus Rosa in the family Rosaceae or the flower it bears. So it is perennial.
Okay.
We're making up ground on flowers.
This is absurd to me. I'm like, I know nothing. What is happening right now?
All right. Question number 3. Willow Shields plays what character in the Hunger Games film series whose nickname is Little Duck and who had possibly the worst luck at her first reaping? Thankfully, J-Law voluntarily intervened. For the purposes of this round, I will need her full name.
And with that said, I'm going to open up my Buble water.
Okay.
I had to choose one that had a sound for the podcast.
Nicely done. We'll lock in.
Okay, Jeremy and Chris, you can talk it out.
Yeah, so her name is Primrose Bobcat Goldthwait Everdeen.
Yeah, so we locked in really quick on Primrose.
It's Primrose Everdeen, but I would have thought Primrose is just a type of rose.
But I don't think it is. I remember hearing that somewhere, but I still have no idea if it's yearly or not. So pick one.
Let's go annual.
All right.
So Primrose Everdeen and annual.
Okay, and Tim and Mike?
Yeah, so this was Primrose Everdeen was all Timus, but as soon as he said it, I knew what it was. But I was in a completely different area, and I couldn't remember what her sister's name was. But when he said Primrose Everdeen, I was like, yes, and I was like, maybe prim translates to annual instead of perennial in some language or whatever. Like a primrose is different from rose. I don't know, they're flowers. But we literally just said annual because roses were perennial, and we were like, maybe that's what differentiates a primrose from a rose. So we said Primrose Everdeen and annual.
Okay, so both teams saying Primrose Everdeen and annual. Both teams picking up the point for Primrose Everdeen. However, primrose is a perennial plant. And in fact, it's actually a perennial, more or less evergreen in habitats. It flowers year after year, and it's a completely different plant than a rose. So,
yeah, that I remember hearing, like the completely different from like a regular rose, but no idea.
Well, to be fair, a rose by any other name.
The prim.
We've had enough Shakespeare tonight, sir.
So the prim and primrose comes from the Latin primus. It's one of the first plants to flower in the spring. So that's
Winona had a big brown.
So that's what Optimus grows.
Yes. All right. Question number 4.
I go.
And remember, I do need.
I go to Les Claypool. He goes to Transformers. I don't even know.
All right. I do need annual or perennial on this. What character was debuted in Super Mario Land as the ruler of Sarasa Land? Since then, the character has been a regular playable option in the Mario sports games, Mario Kart series, and all of the Mario Party games since Mario Party 3, with the exception of Mario Party Advance.
Yeah, lock it in.
Okay, yeah, we're locked in.
Okay, Tim and Mike, you can talk it out.
No, Tim, I think you're more on the right track. I heard Super Mario World instead of Super Mario Land.
Yeah, and I always confuse them. I think this is going to be Daisy.
I think you're right.
Because I know she was in a lot of the sports games, a lot, if not all. I haven't played all of them. As far as annual or perennial, I mean, it's a coin flip.
Yeah, I don't have a good leg.
I think I lean towards annual.
That's where I lean as well. Agreed.
Okay, so let's lock in Daisy and annual.
Okay.
Okay, Jeremy and Chris.
Very similar discussion basically in our text chat here was, I know it's Princess Daisy. I played the hell out of the Mario Land games on Game Boy as a kid. So I know that's Daisy, but we're doing the same thing with the flowers, and we ended up just going annual because my grandma used to plant flowers every year. I thought roses were part of them, but maybe those grew back. But daisies were also some of them. So I'm leaning back on maybe I learned something from those sessions. So we went Daisy and annual.
So both teams said Daisy and annual? Well, both teams are getting full credit because, fun fact, depending on what kind of daisy you're talking about, it could be a perennial or an annual. So, like the common daisy that most people think of when they think of a daisy is a perennial plant. However, ornamental daisies are annuals usually, or can be annuals, biennials, or perennials. So that was one where you could give me either.
If I'm being honest, I think of a duck when I think of Daisy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair.
I think of it.
Daughters.
I don't think you have to plant her every year.
No.
Question number 5. In 1995, Brendan B. Brown founded what American alt-rock band, still active today, who have been featured in Girl Boss and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but are primarily known for their song, Teenage Dirtbag? And is the plant annual or perennial?
All right, we're locked in.
Okay, Jeremy and Chris, you can talk this out.
I'm still not good on that second half. I know the band is absolutely Wheatus.
No, it is.
But here we go again. Like farm fields make me think annual, but wheat also grows out in the wild, which would mean it'd have to be perennial because it grows back.
Yeah, let's go perennial then.
All right.
I just know that peaches come from a can.
Pretty sure that's the presence of the United States, but we'll go with Wheatus and we'll say perennial, even though I put annual in chat. We'll say perennial.
Okay, and Tim and Mike.
Yeah, the band is definitely Wheatus. I wanted to give a brief shout out to another band called Gone Again. I was friends for a little while on Facebook with their lead singer who briefly dated the lead singer of Wheatus. She said he was kind of a cool guy, but they were a far better band than Wheatus ever pretended to be. But we got that off Teenage Dirtbag. I just wanted to give them a shout out. And we had a very similar logic on the wheat aspect. We thought it had to be perennial.
Okay. So before I let you know what the results are, when it comes to baking flours, I am talking about the plant that you grow to make the baking flours. Does that change either of your annual or perennial answers?
I mean, that would be wheat is what we're thinking of, so it's not going to...
Personally,
No,
I
yeah.
don't know what that means.
Because wheat is used to make flour, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so both teams keeping
Yeah,
wheat
it
as
sounds like
perennial?
we were all on the same page where wheatus was wheat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So wheatus is correct, and it is wheat. However, there's a difference between wheat and wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is what you're talking about that grows out in fields. Wheat that's used for baking flour is the wheat that farmers plant to grow. It's a different plant entirely. So that's why I was
All right.
trying to
I thought they were the
clarify.
same
Okay.
plant.
Nope,
Okay.
they're not the same plant.
I did
So
too.
Okay.
wheat is annual. Question number 6. Ramses the Damned, Song of the Seraphim, and the Wolf Gift Chronicles are series written by which author known more for a Sanguine series set primarily in New Orleans?
Just letting you know, this annual or perennial thing is breaking my brain.
Right? Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I was going to say, I think y'all are spending way more time on that than my teams at my live game, which I think just were like, I don't know, put down an A or a P, which is what I told them they could do rather than writing out annual or perennial each time.
We're just
Thanks for the reminder, Brittany. Some of us never took AP classes in high school. So
I took 7 and I don't have a fucking clue on any of this.
The funny thing is, I took a horticulture class at one point, but it was a blow-off class because I needed to have an elective in high school.
I'm not going to call
And
it
we
on
grew things in like a
horticultural
greenhouse
and
they'd built
blow.
in there.
All right, we'll go ahead and lock in.
Okay. Jeremy and Chris?
I mean, it's got to be Anne Rice. It fits everything else. The question we have is annual or perennial, and so our mind says, or Jeremy, I'm not going to speak for you, but my mind says it's going to be annual, and then I want to go the opposite of that because I haven't been right yet, so I want to say perennial.
Yeah, that's basically mine too. Is like, well, I do know that they farm for this, so it's probably annual. But I also know that it's another plant that you can get rice from that grows in the wild. So it makes me let's just go perennial. So that's what we said, rice and perennial.
Okay, Tim and Mike.
We actually had an extraordinarily similar thought process. We got to Anne Rice fairly quickly. And then it was just rice, wheat. Is it the same? Is it different? Did we want to make the same mistake again? And it's possible that we made the same mistake again by attempting to not make the same mistake again because we said annual.
Okay, rice and annual versus or Anne Rice and annual versus Anne Rice and perennial. It is Anne Rice. And like I said last time, if it has to do with what you're growing for the flower, it is the one that you're planting like as a crop, not what grows in the wild. So it is like wheat, annual for what you plant in for the flower.
By the way, this is a great round, but yeah,
It-
it's breaking my brain. This is a fantastic.
It really is a great round, but yeah, I kind of agree with Jeremy.
I swear, I don't think my team's agonized over the annual perennial at all. I think they just wrote down their. They were like,
So Are you saying the author is annual rice?
Ooh.
Well, she is planted now. So
Oh.
Perennially.
Oh. Okay. That
took a turn. And we're gonna go on to question number 7. Alicia Moore is the birth name of what performing artist from Pennsylvania known for songs like Lady Marmalade and Get the Party Started? And is the plant annual or perennial?
All right, we'll lock in.
Okay. Jeremy and Chris, talk it out.
Okay, this is hurting my brain because you're saying basically who is Alicia Moore? Alicia Moore is pink. I know that 100% almost. But what the hell kind of plant is pink? That's a color.
It sounds like an annual to me, which means perennial.
All right, fine. Pink and perennial.
Okay.
I like alliteration.
Tim and Mike.
So I think, if I remember right, this was related to a Learnedly question either last season or 2 seasons ago, where the color pink is derived from the plant that is called pink. Like, that's where we get the word pink for the color. So pink is the name of a flower, and we said perennial.
All right, both teams going pink perennial. Tim is right that this is from Learned League where I learned this, but yeah, pink, the color gets its name from pink, the flower, which is like a Mediterranean flower, and it is a perennial flower. So both teams getting both points on this one, which I'm loving Chris's logic of, I think it's this, so let's say the opposite of what I think it is.
It's the George Costanza approach. My instinct tells me this, so I'm going to do the opposite.
All right, here's the next one.
I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
Number 8. Ricky Lindholm and Kate McCucci play fictionalized versions of themselves in which TV show which shares its name with their comedy folk music duo? As a duo, they are known for songs like Sports Go Sports and The Loophole, and open for one of the artists they are named for. And is that plant perennial or annual?
All right, we're going to lock in.
Okay. Tim and Mike, talk it out.
Okay, so I knew as soon as you said Kate McCucci and Ricky Lindholm, because I wrote a question about it for Frenemy Trivia, upcoming podcast. Stay tuned.
And I just know the lesser halves of famous like duos.
100% Garfunkel and Oates. So the question is, are Oates annual
perennial?
Right. And I'd say we play the game theory. The last couple of like FLOUR flowers,
right? Exactly, have been annual.
So let's sow some wild oats and call them perennials.
All right, giddy up.
Okay, so you're saying Garfunkel and Oates perennial? All right, Jeremy and Chris.
Chris, I wish I'd thought about the sow the wild oats saying, because maybe Brittany's asking about the elusive plant, the Garfunkel, and not the oat. But we went absolutely Garfunkel and Oates, like knew right away as soon as the names came up. They're fantastic, and we just said annual because all the other farming stuff has been annual. But yes, sow some wild oats is absolutely a saying, and if it grows in the wild, it's probably a perennial. But we went annual.
Okay. I appreciate that y'all are trying to game theory science, but when plants are related botanically, they tend to function in similar ways. So this is Garfunkel and Oates. I told my teams when I ran this on Tuesday, I was like, I'll be nice. You can either give me the name of the duo or the TV show. Because it's the same answer. However, oats, the plant that make oat flour, is an annual. So it is Garfunkel and Oates, and it is annual. And number 9, Laith Ashley plays the love interest in the music video for which Taylor Swift song, the first listed track on Midnights. The song was co-written by Swift and Zoe Kravitz and has been compared to the music of Whitney Houston, Prince, and Madonna by critics.
I don't think this is Shake It Off, Jeremy, so I'm kind of out of my league here.
All right, we'll lock in.
Okay. Jeremy and Chris, talk it out.
So I know the only single I can think of off of that album, because it was all over when Midnight's came out, was Antihero, and that is not a plant that I'm aware of. But Antihero is a great beer, and that's made with barley. So we're just gonna go Annual.
Okay. So you're going with Antihero,
Antihero and Annual.
Okay. Tim and Mike.
So, but before Tim talks about this, I just want to go 100% that I'm on board with Jeremy. I'm like, Antihero is the song that I can name off of this. And then Tim goes, shut the fuck up, and takes it away.
My wife is a huge Swiftie. I'm pretty sure her first words to me this morning were "Speak Now, Taylor's version, July 7th." Because that was announced last night, and I said, "Yep, I already knew that." This song is 100% Lavender Haze, and we said perennial.
Okay, so Lavender Haze Perennial and Antihero Annual. Well, the song is 100% Lavender Haze.
Sure.
And
it's going to be fucking Annual. Damn it.
So, here's the... you remember how earlier I talked about how daisies could be annual or perennial? So can lavender.
Oh, yay. So, all right.
So, turns out if it's the lavender you're growing for cooking purposes, it's an annual. But if it's the kind that you keep in your garden, which is a different species of lavender, it's perennial. So it's one that is both. And so I gave credit for either annual or perennial. So, but you got no credit for Antihero. So, and
we learned you can cook with lavender.
Yeah. We are at our last.
I know what the concern. I know what the issue with our team is. It's me. I'm the problem.
Hi.
Oh wait, so the person who doesn't know anything about Taylor Swift just pulled out some lyrics. Chris is a secret Taylor Swift fan, just so everybody knows.
I just want to point out, bringing it back to much earlier, Romeo and Juliet are not Prince and Princess, which has led me to be a not Taylor Swift fan since that fucking song came out.
That song does not make a lot of sense. I'll agree.
It doesn't.
So
the rest of her work is very, very good.
I just go back to December. Okay?
Isn't it ironic?
That is not even the same singer, Jeremy.
I know, but it's a song that doesn't make any sense.
That's true. Okay, so speaking of not making sense, let's finish up this round, shall we? All right. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born, what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. Is the opening line to which novel by J.D. Salinger? And is that plant typically an annual or a perennial?
We're locked in.
Okay. Tim and Mike, you can talk it out.
So we're completely... So actually, funny story. I literally started typing to Tim David Copperfield before realizing my mistake. Fortunately, Tim immediately came back with Catcher, and I was like, yes, I know it's Catcher in the Rye. Yes, absolutely. So rye is the plant that we're looking for.
Now the question is it the same as oats and wheat?
I feel like it has to be, right?
Or is Brittany a shiesty bitch? And
that's a fair point. That's a fair question.
Give us that piece of information right before she gives us the exception.
Sweeps the rug. Yeah.
Rule.
Right. Exactly. I get you. Or does she already know that we're going to think that way? It is actually the levels of game theory here are.
This is why she's my frenemy.
Right. At 100%. Absolutely.
I feel like one of the flowers have to be perennial eventually.
I'm fine with that.
One of the OUR flowers.
Understand. Yep. So I'm fine with that.
Let's do rye and perennial.
So we will lock in with Catcher in the Rye and perennial.
Okay. And Jeremy and Chris.
So we went pretty similar thought process, but we went with a Catcher in the Rye and annual.
So, fun fact, The reason that I let my teams put A and P, in addition to them not having to write out the full word, is because when I was typing these, every time I was trying to type out annual or perennial, I kept almost typing out annual or perennial, and which is like an entirely different set of words.
Uh-huh.
So like, yeah, you can just write out A or P. And also remember that my teams submitted all of these at the same time. So I don't know how many game theory discussions they were having, but Jeremy and Chris, you said Catcher in the Rye and annual. You're getting 2 points because it is Catcher in the Rye and it's annual. Y'all did pick up the 1 point for Catcher in the Rye, Mike and Tim. So cereal grains, the kinds that you use to make flours and cereal, are all annual unless they have been genetically modified, which is why this round's a typically annual or perennial, because there's strains out there that people have bred to be perennial, but most of the time when farmers are planting these cereal crops, they plant them every year. So,
Gotcha.
Now, do they have wild versions that grow perennially? Yes, but that's not the kind we eat. So, that are manufactured into flours and factories.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just stick random plants in your mouth, Jeremy. I cannot stress that enough. Also, I don't think I've ever talked about this with y'all before, and definitely not on your podcast. I got my degree in botany. So they asked the botany person to do a round on flowers. And the level of my shiesty bitchiness was just making it about flowers and flowers.
I'm a big fan of your bay.
Oh, yeah? I mean, I'm a big fan of my bay, too, but, like...
Not really, but Botany Bay.
Botany Bay. I thought you meant Aaron.
I'm a big fan of it, too.
I got it, Tim. That was well done. I got it.
Okay, so at the end of that round, we have a score of Critical Mind with 94 points and Critical Grind and Rolls with 88 points, closing that gap up a little bit.
Hey, trivia lovers. Want to get the pub trivia experience in an interactive way? Check out Liquid Courage Entertainment. With a wide range of offerings online, LK has you covered, streaming a wide variety of trivia games on Twitch with one-of-a-kind formats like Tringo, Guesstimate, Mega Sheep, and more. Or check out the World Trivia Federation. With 36 hours to answer each quiz and no obligation, the WTF is the perfect solution to scratch that trivia itch on your own time. Come see us at twitch.tv/liquid_courage or check out patreon.com/liquidcourage to join the WTF for as little as $2 a month. That's Liquid Courage with a K. Innovative, interactive, intoxicating.
Okay, so round 4, general knowledge. Same categories as round 1. We will go back and forth, and hopefully this one will move a little bit quicker. So let's go with technology. They're currently on tiramisu, but starting this fall, what software will launch version upside down cake with vanilla ice cream to follow in late 2024?
Locked in.
All right, Tim and Mike are locked in. Jeremy and Chris, talk it out.
It's got to be Android, right?
Yeah, it makes sense because they name everything after food. I thought they stopped for a while, but maybe they're back to it. So we're just going to lock in with Android.
Okay, and Tim and Mike?
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I knew this one. It was Android. They
okay,
name all of them alphabetically after desserts.
All right. It is Android. So, question number 2 in movies. Luxo Jr. is the name of the toy desk lamp that acts as the de facto logo for what animation and production company known as the Graphics Group before its spin-off as a corporation in 1986. The company was previously owned by Lucasfilm and Steve Jobs.
Locked in.
Okay. Tim, Mike, you can talk it out.
Tim, it's got to be Pixar, right?
Yeah, it's Pixar.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll lock in
Chris
with
and
Pixar.
Jeremy?
Yeah, same thing. We both sent each other Pixar at like the same time.
Well, I just don't know how do you pronounce Pixar when there's no I and just a lamp there? Is it?
Paluxo Jr. R.
Plampsar.
Pixar. I don't know. Ask Simba.
Plampsar. Yeah. Oh, without the I, yeah. This is Pixar. Yes. Your next question is in history. Sharing his last name with a fictional pirate captain in a real security technology company, what man born into slavery in 1860 was the first U.S. person to lead a queer resistance group? He was also the first person known to identify as a queen of drag and would routinely host drag balls in the D.C. area in the 1880s and 1890s. Tim, stop giving me that look.
This isn't fair to Chris and Jeremy. We're locked in.
Jeremy and Chris, you can talk it out.
Yeah, I think I know, and I'm trying to remember the name, and I should know this.
Fictional pirate captain in a real security technology company.
Last names only is fine, by the way.
Like the
What fictional pirate captains do you know other than Barbossa?
well,
Yeah,
was there? I'm trying to think of who
Arrow?
it is. I'm in my head. The name Marsha P. Johnson came to head, and I'm trying to figure out a captain that would go by Johnson, and we could do the Lucky Johnson and just hope that that's who we're talking about here. But
there's not a technology company. I wouldn't think it's just called Johnson.
that's true.
That's what's kind of giving me like. You think fictional pirate? The only one that's coming to mind is freaking Barbossa and Sparrow. What's the Robert De Niro's character in Starlight or Stardust?
Don't remember off the top of my head.
This queer icon. I know De Niro's parents were famously queer. Maybe it's a nod to that. The Queen of Drag, which doesn't necessarily fit.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that came to mind, I've been still racking my brain for a pirate named Johnson, and because that's the name that popped into my head, especially when it comes to drag.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there from pirate. You're getting there from a couple different areas, so I'm going Johnson. I don't know. I mean, my gut would say Sparrow, but Johnson's as good a guess as any.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got, and I know it's a leader in the drag movement, so we'll go with Marsha P. Johnson.
Okay, and Tim and Mike?
This question is just not fair to Jeremy and Chris because Brittany stole this question from me when I read it on her episode 2 of Frenemy. I don't remember his. I think it's William, but his last name is Swan.
And apparently Hook is not the most famous pirate by far, but okay.
So are we saying, hold on, so if the last name is Swan, I'm assuming you're getting that from pirates.
Yeah, Elizabeth
We're now
Swan.
saying that Elizabeth Swan is a pirate?
She is a pirate eventually in the movies.
When?
At World's End.
I was focusing so much, I didn't even realize it was like 1860. I don't know why. I just looked over that part. Like Marsha P. Johnson was, I think died in the 90s. So
I just don't remember. I don't remember Elizabeth Swan being a pirate. Like in the first movie, she's a captor. Does she end up as a pirate in the second
she
movie?
Absolutely
Yeah.
does. She does.
Okay.
She definitely does.
That's what I don't remember that at all. But I've blocked out the second movie and all but the last 10 minutes of the third one. The last 10 minutes of the third one, she goes off to live on an island and give birth. So.
Yeah, no, I did get inspiration from Frenemy for this one, but I did add more to it and rewrite it a bit. So, yeah, this was William Dorsey Swan. He was the first U.S. person to identify as a queen of drag. He actually, when he was jailed for his illegal gatherings, wrote a letter to, basically he appealed the ruling, and that made him the first person to legally pursue the right for all people, especially people in the queer community, to be able to gather together. So
that's cool. Good for him.
He's
That's
awesome dude, and it was really fascinating to read about him. So that gives points to Tim and Mike. And we go to our Cozy Coast inspiration, which the inspiration from this was elves. So, like elves, known as Alfar in German, goblins are also sprites with their own local name. In addition to being a common draconic-speaking pack enemy in Dungeons & Dragons, the German word for goblin also serves as the name for which element, atomic number 27 on the periodic table, with symbol CO.
we can lock in.
Okay, Jeremy and Chris are locked in. Tim and Mike, you can talk it out.
Can you put it in the chat?
I can, yes.
No, she doesn't need. She doesn't
okay.
need to. With the chemical symbol, I got it. It's cobalt.
Okay, yeah.
Would never have gotten it without the chemical symbol, but I did memorize the periodic table.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as you said that was right.
All right, so locking in with Cobalt and Jeremy and Chris.
Yeah, I asked a similar question about this recently. It's absolutely cobalt.
It is absolutely Cobalt, so both teams picking up credit for that one. Here's our next question in fashion. It's the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and like the Jackson 5 probably sang, A, B, C, easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. When combined, numbers 1 through 4 and letters A through C are used to describe the texture of what? I'd probably consider young Michael a 4B or 4C.
We're locked in.
Okay. Chris and Jeremy?
Kind of a discussion here. So is it only through 4, or does it go higher?
Are you asking me,
The
or are you
question-
talking to Chris?
Yeah, no, like I'm trying to parse out what you're asking in the question here.
The question insinuates that it stops at 4,
Okay.
but if it doesn't,
Then it's definitely not. Well, actually, I don't.
then your answer is right where my head goes as well.
Yeah.
I'd like clarity on that too, Brittany. Does the scale stop at 4? Or does it go higher than 4?
I put the scale in the question, like the whole scale.
I mean,
Okay.
that makes me. I mean, it could be the Mohs scale. I don't really know how that's. Because the first thing I thought of was diamonds. I know have like a weird classification, and I'm like, well, that could be Mohs, but that doesn't make sense for humans. Like with Michael, young Michael of 4B or 4C.
But neither does paper for Michael.
No, I know
Really.
that was out there because paper is A0 through A6, and I'm like, well, maybe there's like different thicknesses that are like B. Wow,
You wouldn't think it's like texture in like a non-literal sense with like the texture of their voice.
Oh, I guess it could be, but that's oof. Texture of what? C4. Oh wait.
The dynamite idea. You should go with it.
Would it say would it be like not gunpowder? What would we be looking for there?
But why are we talking about what does the texture matter unless there's some? They're going to measure firepower of stuff like that. They're not going to measure the texture of that.
Brittany's trying so hard to hide her face, and it's. I don't know. I've really got nothing on this one. I feel like I'm gonna be really mad when I hear it because it's gonna be like something just that I've heard before. I guarantee it. And
the Michael Jackson, it's not even a red herring. It's just in there to be cute with the question, not get you to an answer. But
why don't you go with gunpowder? I don't know.
Just explosives in general. Can we just keep it vague with explosives?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. So locking in with explosives.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's the aha moment too late.
Tim and Mike.
This one is another one that would be considered cruel to ask Jeremy, except that I think Jay asked a similar question on the World Trivia Federation way back in the day. This is something that I have, and Brittany and Chris have, but Jeremy doesn't. It's hair.
It is hair.
Yeah, that's just not a fair question.
Well, it was. I mean, Jay did ask it back in like the first 50 WTFs, so like it's been a while. And yeah, it talked about the 1 to 4 and A to C. First line of that question, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Aquarius being a very famous song from the musical Hair. And 4B and 4C is the texture that would most likely be classified as an afro. So young Michael, 4B or 4C, it is hair. We're going to move on to business.
Pretty sure I got that wrong in WTF too, and it just did not stick with me. But
I got it wrong, and it did stick with me.
Question in business. What insurance company governed by acts of parliament is most known for its unique types of insurance? Examples of their unique policies include comedy liability in the event an audience member dies of laughter, coverage for an engraved grain of rice worth $20,000, and Marlene Dietrich's legs, among others.
Yeah, we'll lock in with that.
Okay, Chris and Jeremy are locked in. Tim and Mike.
Oh, and now I'm mad because I'm pretty sure this is another question that Jay has asked on WTF.
This is one I don't have it, but when I hear it,
London,
it is. It absolutely is.
It's not Harris's of London. I thought Woolworths, but I think I'm just playing off Werewolves of London.
Ow! All right. No, yeah, absolutely. I don't have it.
I don't either. Let's just say Woolworths and get it over with.
Woolworths of London. Yeah, that's the best we got.
Chris and Jeremy.
All you, Chris.
So, fun fact: before he founded the insurance company, he worked for a Hollywood agent named Ari. His name was Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's of London.
Lloyd's of London is correct. They do write weird insurance policies. I don't know that this has been a WTF question, but it came up in Learned League a few seasons ago. But it's usually like kind of a Pavlov. If there's a weird insurance thing, Lloyd's of London probably writes it. That ingrained grain of rice, by the way, was a portrait of King Philip and Queen Elizabeth II engraved onto a grain of rice. Don't ask me how.
Nice.
I'm assuming lasers.
Nice.
Okay, so your next question is literature. Journalist Nellie Bly circumnavigated the globe in 72 days, 8 days faster than what Jules Verne protagonist. He's been played on screen by David Niven and Steve Coogan.
We'll lock in.
Okay. Chris and Jeremy?
You're close, Chris.
I just listen. Tim got me onto this History Daily podcast. It's
not Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas
It's
and Ferb
Phileas.
comes
It's
to mind,
Phileas Fogg, I believe. But I know exactly. Like you got me there. I'm like, what the hell of his name? You said Ferb. I'm like, what? And Phineas? Oh, Phileas. Yep. Fogg. It's Fogg.
Okay, so y'all are locking with Phileas Fogg?
Yeah.
Okay. Tim and Mike?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned we don't like them very much, but it's definitely Phileas Fogg.
Okay, yeah, it is definitely Phileas Fogg.
Good job, guys.
Geography. With its headwaters near Bozeman, Montana, what river, whose name starts with MISS and in Lakota means people with wooden canoes, flows for 2,466 miles and is the longest river in North America?
Thanks for the inside information, douche nozzle.
Chris is dead.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, sometimes the
Wanna
flavor
just
text
3,
comes
2,
back
1
to home.
this?
Trust me,
Yeah,
I
do you
know.
want a 3, 2, 1 it?
I don't think Chris does. Chris is going to probably say Kubrick. I know. That's 3. It's just been one of those nights. I can't tell if he's frozen or if
Everything in the background's moving, so he's definitely not frozen. But he might have fallen asleep when he leaned backwards. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. There's those two Hitchcockian birds flipped towards us to indicate that he's not frozen.
Well, I think we can lock in.
Yeah, we can too.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to remind our listeners real quick. This question was asked on a previous episode of the Pub Trivia Experience, and Mike famously or infamously got it wrong.
What did I say? The snake, probably, or something like that? I don't know.
Well, no, the question was, in which state does the Missouri River start?
Oh, gotcha. What did I say? Idaho?
No, I think you said Minneapolis.
I would. That's right, because I always think it flows east to west instead of west east, right? As I said earlier. Anyway.
So, Chris and Jeremy, I'm taking you're saying Missouri because that's what Chris said in his
tirade earlier. Yeah, no, yes, Missouri.
Tim and Mike.
Same thing, Missouri.
Yeah, it's the Missouri River. And if it makes you feel better, on Monday, one of my teams in the first round said, when I revealed it was the Mississippi, they're like, "Oh, if it's the second longest, what's the longest one?" I was like, "Stay tuned." So, okay, number 9 is in music. NSYNC brought us the iconic "It's Gonna Be May" meme. For 1 point each, name any 2 members of NSYNC other than Justin Timberlake and Lance Bass.
Locked in.
Okay.
Tim.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Joey Fatone
Chris
and
Kirkpatrick.
wasn't JC Chazez NSYNC, or was he Backstreet Boys? He was like the ridiculously old one. But which one was he part of? I don't know. I don't care. I'm just throwing it out there.
Was Joey in sync or was he back?
Joey Fatone was absolutely in sync. He's the one I'm 100% on. And I think JC Chazez was another one.
Okay, so fun fact about NSYNC is the name is derived. It's like it's the last names. That's right. It's the first names. No, I think it's the last letter of the first name of each member.
You're right.
But Lance Bass
wasn't one of the original 5.
Yeah.
Right. So you got Joey, which is the Y, and you've got JC, which is the C. Maybe?
Yeah, we can go with that.
All right. We'll lock in with Joey Fatone, and I think it was JC Chazez.
Okay. They're locked in. Jeremy and Chris?
Trying to see how much of a bitch I want to be. Joey Fatone, Lance Bass, Chris Kirkpatrick, and it's JC Chazet. Is how you actually say his last name.
It's funny because I almost said or Chazet, depending on how fucking French he wants to be.
And then the Backstreet Boys are Brian Littrell, Nick Carter, AJ McClain, Howie DeRoe, and Kevin Richardson. Nick and Drew Lachey are 2 of the 4 from 98 Degrees as well.
All right.
I am 100% of the ilk of we were way too harsh on boy bands when we were in high school, and that the music is not that bad. It's catchy as hell, and that, like it or not, Mike, it's the part of the music of our generation.
I don't hate them. I just don't care. There's a big difference.
You know, as Eminem says,
that's fair. We were very harsh.
Like,
on
I'm not ripping on the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. I just don't give a shit.
So like Eminem says, Chris Kirkpatrick, you can get your ass kicked worse than those little Limp Bizkit bastards.
Okay, well, between the two of you, and especially with Chris naming all of them, you picked up the points for both of you. The 5 members of NSYNC are Justin Timberlake, Lance Bass, JC Chazé, Joey Fatone, and Chris Kirkpatrick. So,
honestly, I will give you credit. Today I learned Lance Bass is considered a more famous member of NSYNC than Joey Fatone, so I'm cool with that.
Joey Fatone is like game show, like
yeah, exactly. I guess that's maybe why. But yeah.
Yeah, keep in mind, so Lance ended in E, and there's not an E in NSYNC. It's because they had someone else, and Lance they left the group, and Lance replaced them.
I got
okay. Your last one is in games. What children's board game was originally conceived to teach children Jainist concepts like karma and What children's board game was originally conceived to teach children Jainist concepts like karma and also illustrated that though there are 10 ways to get knocked down, there are almost as many ways to get back up again. Okay, so maybe that last part is just Chumbawamba, but the point is this game was originally an ASP to kids.
We're locked.
Okay.
So my only question is, do you need the original name or the, I guess, quote unquote, Americanized?
I'm nice.
Okay. So Tim, are you good with this? We're going to lock in with either Snakes and Ladders or Chutes and Ladders.
I believed you, and then she threw in that last clue, and I went,
right.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So yeah, we'll lock in with Chutes and Ladders, Snakes and Ladders, whatever.
Okay.
Same thing.
Chris and Jeremy.
Yep, it's Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah. So the question was going for Snakes and Ladders. However, it is sold as Chutes and Ladders. It's also sold as Biblical Ups and Downs. So I would have taken either of those as alternate answers.
Interesting.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Hey.
I'm giving both teams the credit on that one. Okay. So that brings us to the end of round 4 and time for the all-important dice roll. So.
Woohoo.
All right. So for critical grinding rolls, I rolled a 6. And for critical mind, I rolled a 2. So what that means is that for my dice, the way it works is rounds 1 through 4 are the only ones eligible to be doubled. So if you roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you get that round doubled. If you roll we'll call it a 5 for the purposes of this, it's called a crit miss, which means I'm going to double whatever your lowest round score was. And if you roll a 6, it's a crit hit. I have a custom dice that says crit miss and crit hit instead of 5 and 6. So rolling a 6, that means I'm going to double the round that critical grind and rolls did the best on. That was round 2. Critical mind, I rolled a 2, so I'm going to double round 2. Just kind of worked out that way.
Yes.
So our score going into the final gauntlet is Critical Mind with 129 points and Critical Grind and Rolls with 126.
Close game. Let's
close game.
This.
So let's wrap this up with our gauntlet. And here's how the gauntlet works. It's 3 questions. I'm going to ask you those 3 questions. You can answer any or all of them. They're all worth 20 points apiece. If you answer 1 right and you get it right, you get 20. If you answer 2 right and you get them both right, you get 40. If you answer all 3 questions and you get all 3 right, it's 60 points. However, if you miss 1, it's 0 points. Like for the whole thing. So
repeat that one more time.
It's 3 questions that are worth 20 points each.
Okay.
If you answer 1 and get it correct, you get 20 points. If you answer 2 and get them both correct, it's 40 points. If you answer all 3 and get them all correct, it's 60 points. But if you miss any one question, it's 0 points.
But you don't have to answer all three.
You do not have to answer all three. You get to choose which ones you want to answer. So I'm going to read all three to you, and I will put them in the chat as well. And then you just let me know when you're locked in. We'll say you got like 3 minutes to discuss.
Right. And we can answer any or all of any of the three, right?
Any or all of them.
Okay, so I was to make sure it wasn't like if you answer the
Yeah,
you have to answer the first one, answer the second one. Okay.
Yeah, no, you can pick and choose.
Okay.
So, and you're not going to end this game with fewer points than you have right now. So, here's your 3 questions. The first one is in science. Of the 5 main types of cloud genera, which start the highest in the atmosphere? They're also called high clouds, but I'm looking for the scientific name. In games, McCloud is the surname of the protagonist from Star Fox 64, the origin of the do a barrel roll meme. What 2 buttons on the controller could you push to do a barrel roll? And 3 is in technology. Appropriately, NASA's Nebula was the first open source software for deploying private and hybrid types of what type of technology, allowing for higher capacity storage and computing power without the user having direct active management. Other examples include Microsoft's Azure and Apple's version. And the gauntlet is related, but I won't say how.
Brittany, I'm sending you a quick question clarifying, and then if you want to give it to both teams, whatever.
Yes. So on number 2, it is 2 different buttons on the controller.
Okay, Jeremy, if you're good with that, yep, lock it in.
We're locked in.
Okay, Tim and Mike, you can talk it out now then.
So I think on Star Fox it was double R and double L. Like you hit it 2 times to roll one way, you'd hit 2 times to go the other way.
But so the answer to the question would be either L or R, because
right,
those are the 2 buttons you hit.
I guess, and that's where the clarification came from, because I think, just the double tapping of it. So, yeah,
I never played Star Fox.
And R. So. Number 3 is, I think she's looking for cloud computing or cloud storage. It's definitely cloud.
I agree. The cloud.
Yeah.
Right.
My gut for the science one said Stratus.
Yeah,
I get so confused on the clouds. If I'm going to
I
leave
do
one
too.
empty, I would say that one.
Agreed.
Do we want to just lock in with number 2 and number 3, or do we want to try for all 3?
Number 3, we're in agreement on. Number 2, I have nothing. I never really played N64. I played a little bit of Ocarina, and that was it. Number 1, I'm bad with this stuff. With the different clouds. I know Chris was a meteorology major before he changed it up, so
of course he was.
They're probably gonna get that one, but
and Jeremy works in IT, so there's no way he's missing number 3.
Exactly. I'm okay leaving we can either leave number 1 blank, or we can surmise that they're probably not going to miss anything and give it a dice roll.
It doesn't matter. I think our safer bet is to answer number 2 and number 3, and if they miss, then we're right, then we would win. But we can't get all 3 right and win if they get all 3 right.
Agreed. So I'm cool with that.
Let's go with.
But before we lock in real quick, is it an L1 versus L2 thing on the second question?
No, the N64 only had a single L.
Okay, that's what I couldn't remember. Okay, I'm good with that.
So for number 2, we'll say double L and double R, or L and R, however you want that phrased. And number 3, we'll say cloud computing, cloud storage.
Okay, and you're passing on.
We're passing on the cloud. I think it's Stratus, but we're not going to lock in that answer.
Okay, so passing on number 1. Number 2, you're saying double L and double R, or just L and R. And 3, you're saying cloud
computing, cloud storage.
Okay.
It's all the same thing.
Okay. Chris and Jeremy, what did you lock in with?
Chris, go ahead and take the first one.
Yeah, it's the only one I knew. So it's a good thing you didn't lock in, Tim. Stratus clouds are like the low-hanging clouds that are they look like a bed sheet. They're kind of long, really low clouds. The ones that are really high up in the air that look like almost like feathers on a bird are cirrus clouds.
Okay.
All right. So number 2, Star Fox. Played the hell out of this game as a kid and was kicking myself because I got this exact question wrong before. For sure, you can double tap R to do a barrel roll. The other button you hit is you double tap Z to do a barrel roll. L does not do it. And I got that. I answered the exact same way you did last time I had asked this question. And I'm like, because in my head, it was just like left or right. But no, I was pulling it with the Z, pulling the trigger key. And for the last one, cloud, we said the same thing: cloud computing, cloud storage, just cloud technology, and it fit the theme.
Okay.
So we felt really good about that. Yeah.
So you locked Cirrus, Z or R, cloud computing.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go through the answers then. So we will start with the technology one. NASA's Nebula was the first open source software for cloud computing. Cloud storage was also acceptable. The Apple version is obviously iCloud. I did have a team look at me and they go, "Is there a reason you didn't put the name of it in the question?" And I was like, all I can say is read the question as written. So they're catching on to I put hints in there. So, and I'm very proud of them. For the 5 types of cloud genera, Chris was right. Stratus is the lowest starter. Cumulus, as far as I was able to tell, are multi-level clouds, but they start low. The ones that start the highest, which are the wispier ones, are the cirrus or cirro prefix. So cirrus is correct for that one. And on do a barrel roll, you can double tap R. The other one you would double tap is Z or Z for our overseas listeners.
And Mike, I dismissed Z simply because Z is trigger for everything.
Understand.
Shoot.
I had no idea why Z popped into my head. I never played Star Fox. I never played Nintendo 64. So, but that was the only reason I threw out Z.
So that means that Chris and Jeremy do pick up all 60 points available on the final. And Mike and Tim, even though you did get the third question right, since you said L or R, unfortunately you get 0 points on the final, which gives us a final score of Critical Mind with 189 points and Critical Grind and Rolls finishing with 126, both of which are extremely good scores.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you can take 20 off of ours and land with 169.
Well, I could, but then I'd have to take all 60 away. So because that's how.
But the problem is that would be an unlucky route. So.
So anyway, that is the game. I apologize for the amount of time it took to record. I did not anticipate how much time it would add just doing one question at a time. There's a reason I think that we do this a round at a time. Well, but I had an absolute blast, and thank you again so much for letting me come on and host it. If you are in the Chicagoland area and you want to try your hand at this live, but submitting a round at a time and with music, come check me out at Critical Grind Board Game Cafe in Shorewood, Illinois. I am there every Tuesday. Questions start about 7 p.m., so make sure you're there to get a table.
100%, y'all. If you are in the Chicagoland area, go check it out. Next time I'm in town, I will be stopping by. But we really do hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pub Trivia Experience. If you want to support the show, check out the show notes or head to patreon.com/PTEBB. That's your best place to show support and to get a load of our bonus content, not just for the Pub Trivia Experience, but our sister podcast, Boozy, Bracketology, and any and all the podcasts in the PTE network. For the Pub Trivia Experience, I have been Chris.
I've been Brittany.
I've been Jeremy.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Tim.
We'll see you next time. Have a good one.